Hello, my name is Brian Pillow. I honestly had a lot of trouble picking my topic for the informative speech. There were a lot of names on there I recognized, a lot of people I figured with a lot less research I could write a report on, but in the end I picked one I didn't know. I decided to go with Kim Dae Jung. He was the South Korean president from the year 1998 to 2003. Um, and honestly, I couldn't be happier with my choice. This man was simply amazing. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2000 for the inroads that he made with making a lasting peace with North Korea, a long-standing and still currently standing enemy of South Korea. But really, more than any of his, you know, simple biographical information, I found three of his character traits really interesting when I was reading the different accounts of his life. His nearly reckless courage, his dogged determination, and his compassion. They really stood out. They really seem to define who he is. When he entered politics, he really entered it on the wrong side. South Korea had a long line of authoritarian government. That was what they were. And when he entered politics, he entered as an open, pro-democratic candidate for the National Assembly in open opposition to the ruling party. And he won. When a coup overthrew the government, that didn't stop him. Even though they were using more heavy-handed tactics, he ran for representative of his home district of Mokpo and won again. And when he did that, he then had the clout to run for the presidency. He actually dared to run against a president who got his power by using the military to completely overthrow the old government. That did not stop him. As far as he was concerned, that should not stop a person from doing what was right. He wanted democracy. This is the way he saw to do it. And he nearly won, despite the fact that people agree that this was a badly rigged election. He still won 46% of the vote. And again, lots of upheaval, especially in a military coup state. It happened again. The person who replaced the old dictator saw him as even more of a threat than the old one did, had him imprisoned for 60 days straight, tortured so badly that he lost hearing permanently in one ear, and then exiled him to the US. Jung was very disappointed with how little effect he seemed to be having with South Korea and its government. He ended up flying back despite the strict exile 3 years later, only to be knocked down by the security guards, dragged back into house arrest, and seemingly no impact. But he was wrong there. This near reckless courage, like I said before, really is credited for restoring faith in democracy, in the pro-democracy movement, and with the eventual overthrow of the military regime in 1987. He was also ridiculously determined. He ran 3 times before finally succeeding on the 4th to even achieve his first public office, the National Assembly, only to have his position dissolved in the first coup d'etat. He endured kidnappings, beatings, tortures, assassinations, house arrests, and an exile. Always pushing with every single bit of influence he had, whether it was just the fact that he could speak or he held office, always pushing for democracy. When the regime finally fell in 1987, he tried for the presidency 3 times, finally achieving it in 1997. When he finally was inaugurated in 1998, it was the first time in Korean history ever that power had transferred from the ruling party to a democratically elected candidate with no show of violence. It was truly a historic event. But honestly, the most striking thing I found about him was his compassion. It really shocked everybody. I know it shocked me when I found out that one of the first things he did when he achieved his presidency was he pardoned one of the people that had sentenced him to death. He pardoned one of the old Korean generals and let him go, despite the fact that this is one of the people that had constantly imprisoned him, threatened him, had made an attempt on his life, and then tried to sentence him directly via firing squad. He just pardoned him. And then you see his conviction that his country and his neighbor can be reconciled, despite the fact that years and years of failed foreign policy, failed trade agreements, failed peace talks seem to prove otherwise. He pushed and finally achieved an unprecedented 3-day summit at Pyongyang that made massive inroads. Obviously, today there is still work to be done. As a matter of fact, things have degraded slightly since he left office and actually died. But at that time, some trade routes were reopened. Families were allowed to visit relatives in North Korea, which had not been allowed in many years. Families were finally getting to be reunited. And really, it was the closest thing to an honest start to real peace negotiations that they have seen in recent history. And it was achieved through him. Now, his record is not golden. Some people, as a matter of fact, say he was too friendly with the North Koreans, that he, through his financial support, through the deals that he made, really did open up the way for North Korea to get the funding it needed to make nuclear weapons, that it took advantage of South Korean generosity, and was really trying to inject communist ideas into South Korean democracy. So he doesn't have a spotless record. They do have a point. But the fact of the matter is, you really cannot take what could be an unintended side effect and then say that a man who is remembered for things like this amazing courage that he had, the blind stubbornness and determination and his compassion that made him. If you are made by those types of things, if someone tries to take advantage of you, it's on their heads. He was a truly great man. He is a truly respectable one, and the things he did for South Korea will never ever be forgotten. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.